we have a pressure to do it as observers, not participants.
Right.
And because of that, you're always treading that line between giving everybody there a warm and gracious show and welcome and make them feel good, and shitting on them.
Did you hate hosting the Oscars?
No, I'll tell you, I've hosted 3 times. I said, I'll host under this condition. 1, if I'm the first thing out there.
Right.
Because those moments are so valuable. That's when the audience is hot and ripe and comedy is right. You don't want to follow a big dance number and then go out and win and all that.
You want to go out and do your monologue.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Right.
And I said, and no interviews. Because I didn't want, they're going to ask me, what are you going to do? What are you going to think? And I just didn't want to think about it. I just want to concentrate on what I was going to do. So the first time I was in a state of cold fear.
Really?
Yes. And then the curtain goes up, and you're fine because you've done it a million times.
What is the fear that you're going to flop? And
it's not that. It's just it's what do you call it? It's excitement. It's nerves. It's nerves.
Because there's millions of people watching that thing.
Yeah. But you don't think about that. I always work to the crowd in that room, which I love the crowd.
Do you? Don't you think that crowd? Yes, I found them very ripe for comedy. But it's a crowd that wants to be rewarded and praised. They are actors, and it's their big night.
I think you're overstating it. Everybody's a person in there. They're of course they're nervous, but they're watching a comedian do comedy, and they're fine. I like the audience.
And then you walked out and you felt in command.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then the second time, I thought, okay. And by the way, it was the night the Iraq invasion started.
Oh boy,
yeah.
And
were you thinking, how can I make jokes if we've just invaded Iraq?
Yes, but I had some experience. I was working at the Birdcage Theater.
Yeah.
1963, and Kennedy was shot. And so I'm going to work and think, well, they can't possibly be doing a show. And we got there and said, the show's going to go on. And I thought, this is going to be awful. And we went out, and the audience was really hot for some reason. And I thought, it must be true about some kind of escape. So I had this understanding from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that of an audience's reaction in times of stress. And so I decided to acknowledge what was going on and then just go ahead. And it was successful.
So you're saying right at the top, you said, look, I'm aware that there's, an invasion. We all are thinking
I said there was all this thing about they were going to cut down on the glitz. And so that was my opening line, because looking around, it looks like,
you've really respected that.
Yeah. I said, well, we really cut down on the glitz, and then just went on.
Is life unbelievable for you now?
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, right? Better than you ever could have expected.
I tell you, man, I walked on as host of the Oscars, and I was like, I have no idea how this happened, but I'm going to enjoy it. I have no idea.
And you don't get nervous before the Oscars?
I got 6 weeks before is when I got most nervous.
Doesn't seem like you're real nervous up there.
No, when I went out on stage, I was like, the most nervous I ever got was about 10 years ago, when I had to sing the national anthem in front of 100,000 people. And I was not a singer, right? I lucked into a job in a musical, and I was freaking out. I actually had a panic attack the night before.
Wow.
That's the only time, and I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. People have been booed off doing that particular gig, right? Mm-hmm. And when I got through that, I was sort of like, everything else from that moment's been okay.
I would think when you go out there in front of the Academy Awards and all that, and it's all the people you act with and all the directors, producers, everything, I would shit my pants.
Yeah, but it's the opposite. You're out there and you're looking. First of all, they know the cameras are on them, so they're like this.
They're not even looking at you.
No. And the other thing is, there's an element, because I'm not a comedian, and they're looking at me like, oh man, there, but for the grace of God go I. What if I was up there? And they're like, you can see that. Good luck, man. We want it to go well. You poor bastard. Good luck.
You've said after the last Oscars, you are never hosting the Oscars again.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't host it again. I was incredibly honored to have been asked to host it. And I knew going into it that it was going to be super difficult in almost every way.
Right.
But I would never then say that I wouldn't be honored to host it again.
But
it's a weird thing to say, because if you say that, it sounds like you're trying to get to host the Oscars again. But it's not like I'm out, I'm done, it was horrible. There were a lot of parts of it that were really horrible, but I think the nature of that show is that there's so much expectation to just simply watch it. And I think most people, and why would they, have no appreciation of just how much goes into every single thing.
So
like
much
you could
work.
ask me a singular thing about any part of that 4-hour telecast, and I could tell you a 20-minute story about what the joke was, why it wasn't that, what our choices were, why did this person fell out, and so we had to quickly get someone to go into it, and this person, like it's crazy.
It's a thankless job for the host because I've said this before. You've got to do the balancing act where you're sort of being nice to everyone, but yet you got to be edgy enough for the audience. And then if you try anything out of the ordinary, you can get slammed for it. When you came out in your tidy whities and did the Birdman thing, everyone said, the critics, he's trying to show off his muscular body or something.
Yeah, it wasn't that at all.
Did you take that as like, fuck you? I mean, do you get pissed?
No, I'm not a fuck you kind of person.
You don't read reviews?
I read everything.
You read everything?
Pretty much everything,
And you don't get affected by it?
No, not really. Sometimes people will say individual things that seem like weird low blows. But no.
How do you not get affected by that shit?
You know why?
I almost don't believe you.
But seriously, I would be more paranoid if I didn't read the stuff, and I would be more paranoid that they were saying worse things about me. As long as I'm processing the information, then the onus is on me to figure out how to deal with it.
The fascinating thing, too, I always want to talk to you about, you've hosted the Oscars, you've hosted the Emmys, and you've hosted the Grammys, like the Grand Slam of all time. Is that fun for you? Would you continue to do, like, if they said to you host the Oscars, would you do that?
No.
It's not fun, right? It's thankless.
No. They asked me to do it again this last year, and I was like,
No way. Why? Because it takes up a lot of time, or
it does take up, especially doing the show at the same time, because I have to start writing, early on. I have to be ready for that, and then you don't know which movies are going to be nominated, so you don't know how strong the jokes are going to be because it depends on the movies that are nominated.
And then the pressure again. People evaluate you based on the ratings.
Your last performance.
But also it's the ratings, and the ratings sometimes are determined by which movies come out because people have to be interested in the actors, right? And you get pinned if the thing is not. You get pinned with a failure.
Yeah.
It's too much to risk,
but
right?
I did have fun. The last time I hosted, I had a lot of fun.
You broke the internet in a sense. You decided to take a selfie, right? And were you shocked by that response? People went on to see this selfie, and it actually crashed the web, so to speak.
I hoped that it would do that. I actually thought that might happen. But the joke was going to be, I said, Meryl, you've broken the record for the amount of Oscars that you've won. Let's try to break the record for the retweet of selfies. And so it was going to be, I said, so Meryl was in it, and then I was going to call as many people that would come in. And the whole joke for me was I was planning on asking Meryl to get out to take it so that she wasn't even in the picture. Right. And I kept, if you watch the tape piece, I kept saying, Meryl, I can't reach Meryl. And Bradley Cooper kept saying, I'll take it. And I was like, no. And I was trying to get Meryl out of the seat. The whole joke was that she wouldn't even be in the retweet break. Bradley took the picture, and it became what it was.
Isn't that a crazy amount of pressure, too? Because you're on live television, probably the biggest audience, it's like the Super Bowl, it's huge.
Right.
And now you've kind of visualized in your head this great bit. I'm going to do a selfie, I'm going to go over to Meryl Streep, I'm going to ask her, blah, 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 blah. And the thing can tank horribly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could seem like the longest 2 minutes ever.
I don't know. I never think that way. I just thought this is going to be fun, and I knew fun people were near there, so I thought some people would. I didn't think Brad Pitt and Angie would jump in.
Right.
I thought maybe Brad would, but Angie's really shy, and thought it would be fun. And I thought the pizza thing could tank. I was worried about the pizza thing.
Right. The guy delivering pizzas.
Everybody loved that, and then this amazing pizza guy that we found this amazing story of like the American dream.
Right.
Now he has his own pizza parlor because of this whole thing. I mean, it was,
maybe that's why you would never host the Oscars again, because you can't top that. In a sense, you go, wait, I did it.
Yeah.
You had this tremendous success.
Yeah.
Maybe you say that's it. You throw down your bat and you get out of the game.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I do.
You do, right?
Yeah, and I do, and I did.
So that kind of thing goes through your mind.
Yeah, and listen, the reason I did it this last time is because, as you know, when you do something that is natural to you, it's not a challenge anymore. It's still fun, and there's highs and lows every single day. There are better days than others, and I wanted to challenge myself.
In between Ted and A Million Ways to Die in the West, you hosted the Oscars. Now, I thought you did a really good job. I mean, you told a lot of funny jokes. Some of them were edgy, but the rule is you can't make fun of those people on their big night. And you did. So was it a mistake in the end to host the Oscars, or would you do it again if they asked?
No. I suppose I would do it again. No, I don't think it was a mistake at all. I had a great time. The room was fantastic. Yeah, I used to do stand-up. I've never felt so much love for an audience as I did well into the second hour of that, because I felt like they were still with me.
Right.
They were great afterwards.
Were you nervous?
No, I had a few drinks before I went out there, so I was fine.
Don't you think, like, for a guy who you know, I'm not going to say hides, but psychologically, you're hidden when you do a cartoon and you're doing the voices. When you do Ted, you're the hidden guy. For you to go out in front of millions of people on Hollywood's biggest night, I would think you would shit your pants because you're not used to being the guy in front of the camera.
The movie was scarier. The Oscars was, you know, you're going out and, you know, you're reading jokes off a prompter, basically.
Right. Yeah. And that doesn't unnerve you.
And then, you know, if something happens, yes, you have to be on your toes a little bit if something goes haywire. But
do you have a group of writers who stand backstage? Because that's what I heard like Billy Crystal would do. You have a group of writers in the commercials. You discuss what just happened, and then they'll just give you a couple of suggestions, and then you go with it.
Yeah. Yep, we do that too.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, it's
you didn't mind the backlash afterwards when
because I don't think that it comes from anywhere but the press. I think you know my interactions with you know people like Affleck and Clooney and Charlize after the fact, you know, they were great. I mean, they had a great time, and you know the reaction from the public was very gratifying. I think. The press loves to make you think that there's outrage where there is none.
Was it a tough decision to host the Oscars
No.
when you did it? It was an easy decision.
Easy decision.
Did you pinch yourself? I think that's rarefied air. You know,
rarefied air.
And for a comic, that's like a big deal.
No question.
Would you do it again?
I would probably do it again. Not sure if they would. I think that what's needed there is a slightly different animal. The problem with having me do it, and it's the problem with maybe having Dave do it and Rock do it, is we have a pressure to do it as observers, not participants.
Right.
And because of that, you're always treading that line between giving everybody there a warm and gracious show and welcome and make them feel good, and shitting on them.
That's the problem.
And then for the host, though, you feel that pressure because you're there. You're not a dick.
No, but you don't want to disappoint your fans either.
Right, but you don't want to disappoint them either. So now you're playing both rooms.
Right.
And playing both rooms. I can remember when I did it the first time, because the first time I did it, I thought I had it. And even in the room, I thought I had it nailed. Like, that was one of those nights where right after it was over, we were like high-fiving until the next day. We're like, Stewart sucks. Stewart, never show your face again.
Right.
You know, it was one of those things.
So when you get a negative review for the Oscars, did it throw you? It was like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, it throws you, but not... You know, not for that long, you know, because it's not, one of the things about the Oscars is, you know, if my career was only hosting award shows, then I'd be like, oh my God.
Then you're fucked.
What am I going to do now?
The whole slap thing. Do you play it over in your head like the Sabruder film and go, if I had it to do over again, I would have marched out and thrown Will Smith right the fuck out of that building?
I mean, I don't know what I would have done if the power were in my hands. It was so upsetting. Like, and people made fun of me for saying that it was traumatizing, but I don't think it was traumatizing for me. I think it was traumatizing for all of us. Like, it was like, it just was. Like, Chris Rock's my good friend, like one of my best friends, and Questlove is also one of my best friends. Like, you know, this is a small town, and the people who live in New York and stay in New York, like, we're close. And so to see that happen, to see your friend get hit. And then, and also Will Smith, who I've loved, and we've all loved forever. Like, I don't remember a time I didn't think, I love that guy. And, you know, and I haven't been around much violence. You know, I didn't grow up within the home or anything. So it was upsetting for so many reasons. And it was upsetting to everyone at home who didn't even see what I saw. It was shocking. And it was a bummer. But, you know, for me, I had no thoughts of like how it affected me or my performance or anything. It was just upsetting as a person.
When you saw the Will Smith slap and all that crap, do you say to yourself, thank God I don't host the Oscars? Because to me, I even found myself sitting there going, why isn't anyone coming out and helping out Chris Rock? The guy just got assaulted on stage. And you kind of want to blame the host and say, where are you? And you know, if you had been the host, Jimmy, they would have said, that fucking Jimmy Kimmel, he's a coward. He didn't come out. He didn't wrestle.
Oh, I would have went right out there. There would have been I wouldn't even have waited for somebody to say something.
Do you think? Do you think you would have?
Absolutely. I would have went right out on stage because somebody needed to go out there at that time. And I think that was one of the drawbacks to having three hosts is it wasn't clear who should go out there and who channeled.
Right.
But when they mixed up the envelopes and nobody knew what was supposed to happen. No one told me to go out on stage. I said, I guess I better go up because I'm the only one with a mic on. And I just
You
walked
want
right
to know
up on
something?
stage.
I am now so fucking disappointed that you didn't host the Oscars, because what a great moment. If you would have been clear-headed enough, you would have had the presence to say, fuck this, and walked out and confronted Will Smith. In your mind, how would you have handled it, though? What would you say? Hey, Will, get in your fucking seat and get out of the... What would you have done, do you think?
I think I probably would have started talking to Will Smith. I think that would, who was sitting there, I think I would have opened and like, what are you doing? Like, what and I think that would have been my first step.
Did you call Chris Rock at all or speak to him after that incident?
I spoke to him for about 90 minutes, probably 6 or 7 days after it happened.
You called him at home and said, hey.
I in person. I saw him in person after Saturday Night Live. I was in New York and I talked to him at length about it. And I really don't want to share what he told me, because I don't think it's my story to share. Right. And I think that he's going to, but he was surprised by it.
Yeah.